Then you go to losers bracket. You're like, if I didn't do that bad versus Daigo, like surely my losers bracket match is gonna be easy. And you're like, who do I play against? Johnny, 2x4 head. The guy locks in Manon, and you're like, Manon, this character sucks. You think I'm gonna lose to this guy?
Welcome to the Deli, folks. Today we will be reacting to why you play well against good players, but not bad players. This reaction is coming from a fellow bad player. So let's see what Sajam has to say.
And I do so well versus good players, but I'm so bad against all these bad players, these random scrubs. You put me up against old Jimbo, who's never played the game before in his life, and he just beats me up, dude. It's not fair, man. I don't know what's going on. I saw a Speedkick tweet about this topic, and he said, often used as fighting game cope, but as a clear sign of a big weakness to fix, which is the truth. If you ever say this sentence and it doesn't immediately follow up with, and here's my problem, then yeah, it's cope. You got the copium, you're huffing it right now. People say this all the time, right? What does this mean?
What it basically means is you don't play well against high risk, high reward players. You don't know how to deal with raw aggression. You don't know how to deal with randomness. You're playing defensively. You're either expecting the other player to respect you. You're not throwing out things to counteract things that you don't think are going to happen. Like, you're not very good at adjusting. You expect your opponent to play by a script, and that script doesn't exist.
You go to a tournament. Round one, you play a match, you win. You don't even think about it. Round two, you play up against Daigo Umaharas. I'm playing against the GOAT, the beast. The game starts. You guys are dancing a bit. It's going back and forth. He closes it out. He wins the first round. You're dancing. You know, he wins the second round. Third round, fourth round, he ends up beating you, right? But it's like pretty close. It's all right. It's okay. Everything's going fine. You're like, well, I hit him a bunch. I got some combos. You know, I dropped some stuff. But yeah, I did pretty well versus Daigo. Like, I was holding my own. I didn't die immediately. I was feeling good. So then
that is the illusion of doing good. Basically, just because you whittled his life down a little bit, or, you know, it was a close round, you feel like you did better because you didn't get perfected. You didn't get killed in 2 fucking combos. But in reality, he was just feeling you out, and you didn't do enough things that could pressure him into a position of where he had to do more.
Then you go to losers bracket. You're like, if I didn't do that bad versus Daigo, like surely my losers bracket match is gonna be easy. And you're like, who do I play against? Johnny, 2x4 head. The guy locks in Manon, and you're like, Manon, this character sucks. You think I'm gonna lose to this guy? He starts with the round start low. You're like, oh shit. And then he does dash up command grab, and then you lose the game in 30 seconds. And you say the sentence, man, why?
That's also something that a lot of players that type shit like this do. You're expecting the next player to play like the last player. You're expecting him to, you know, allow you to get your footing, size each other up. Not everyone plays like that.
How do I do so well versus good players, but not bad players? And it says the ability to punish bad play consistently is how you beat good players after forcing mistakes, and is the difference between looking good and being good. Now, what does it mean when people describe bad players? Players who generally take high risk, low reward options. They play in a way that has extreme variance, right? Either they hit you and win, or everything they do doesn't work and they just die. Players who play in a really risky way can adjust and find a new play style. But generally, when people talk about bad players, they're talking about like the guy who shows up to the major, wears the same clothes for 3 straight days, and he's just there out drinking until 4 a.m. Every time you're going to the venue, he's leaving the venue with more alcohol. You're like, kind of, how is that possible? They're not talking about players who play in a risky way but win everything, because those players aren't bad players, right? To start with, how do most good players start by playing the game? By waiting to see what you do. Being like, okay, I'm gonna just walk back and forth, get an idea about what you're doing. Is this guy doing full screen, unsafe?
I've already used drive rush. I'm in your face. I jumped in with a fucking large heavy kick despite whatever you thought you were about to do. I've thrown a random super, the grab from 400 yards away. You don't.
Special moves, is he jumping a lot? Is he dashing a lot? Is he just risking it all the time? And when like the answer is no, they're like, okay, well, then maybe I'll be a little bit more aggressive. I'll be active. I'll poke more. I'll change up my play style, see if that works. And maybe I'll walk and block and see.
And the play style that he is describing right here, like waiting it out, feeling out the opponent, this is the better way to play. This is the more consistent way to play. The only problem is, if you don't know matchups, if you don't know the game and its mechanics and what other characters are capable of, you're going to get opened up. and you're not going to have the time you need to adjust to that bad player.
How he handles that. And maybe if that doesn't work, I'll try to be more defensive and just like preemptively poke more, throw fireballs, or do stuff defensively. Their opening playstyles are not built to blow you out right away. They're built to like figure you out and then, oh, okay, now that I understand how this person plays, I can just play this way and win, right? So that's why it feels like the matches with good players are so close, is because they're not trying to kill you right away, because if they did that, then their playstyle would maybe open them up to dying if you played in a really aggressive way. And
what he just described is perfect.
Good players can play lots of different playstyles and try lots of different things very quickly and identify the things that you struggle with or are bad at or are going to do faster than players who are weaker. If you respect a player, if you think they're really good, you might not play against them in a way that's risky either, which usually, you know, you're not playing to win. You're playing to look good.
If you go into a match and like you said, you see Daigo, you see Knuckle-Doo or something, you run into these players, you just assume that your normal tactics that you would use against the random scrub online is just ineffective and it's not going to work. So you're going to mentally defeat yourself before the first round even starts.
You're trying to walk back and forth and play slow versus Daigo, and he doesn't kill you right away, but you're also not doing anything to win the game. You were just standing there not dying. And not dying to you is winning. You're like, cool, I'm actively not dying against Daigo. That's a win.
The illusion of winning.
The players you're playing against are not trying to destroy you. They're trying to figure out how to beat you in a consistent way and then do that, right? This bad player that you're running into, this Johnny player, is just someone who's testing you in a different way. And his playstyle is not built to be good long term. His playstyle is built to kill you right now and then go to the bar and drink with his friends. Johnny 2x4 head. He's not here for a long time. He's
Johnny 2x4 is here to kill you.
And if you are a really solid player, right, then you can run into someone like that, recognize what they're doing, adjust. Maybe, you know, you get hit by stuff, right? You probably get hit by that round start low and the command grab or whatever. But then once you see those things, you go, oh, I see. And then you figure out how they play, react to the stuff they do, or just play in a way that's very safe. Let them take risks, you know, punish the risks really hard, and then you kill them, and then you win the game. But what ends up happening to most people is they don't think about the game that way. They think, well, I lasted a long time in this match against a good player. I must have been doing really well, even if they weren't doing anything. And the fact that they just lived for a while made them feel like they were good. When the reality is, like, beating weak players or random players or bad players or whatever you want to call them is a test of the foundation of your skills. It's easy to identify how to beat a player like that, right?
It's a test of your ability to adjust. If you're not able to adjust to this random wild playstyle, are you really as good as you think you are? Because if that person is forcing you to play in a different way than what you're used to, and you can't manage to do it, maybe you're the bad player.
You let them make their mistakes because they're going to obviously make those mistakes. When you play against the best players, the strong players, sitting there doing nothing will keep you alive for a while, but it won't force any mistakes. The age-old, like, how come when I play him, he never drops that combo or he never misspaces that? But when this person plays them, he drops every combo, he misses this, he misses it. He plays so bad against other people, but he plays so good against me. And it's because you're not making the player make any mistakes or causing them enough problems that they would ever drop those things or miss those things or whatever, right? The other person's better than you, so they're forcing them to be uncomfortable and drop things or misspace things. It is funny. I mean, did you guys see the nephew video where the guy...
Some It's Always Sunny shit. He's like, he's not going to throw. He's not going to throw there. He's not going to throw there. Why not? Because of the implication. Because if I throw that throw out, he's going to think I'm a fucking terrible shitter. I'm not going to throw that. Like, come the fuck on.
I was like, I didn't make any mistakes. And nephew was like, okay. And he watched like a viewer's replays. And the guy made like 11 mistakes around or something. It's really easy to just be like, oh, I got hit by a random thing. Like, yeah, I mean, that's not my fault. Like, I just got hit by something. Like, it's not a mistake. But like, yeah, dude, it's almost always the case. You have like problems in your game plan that people just are not exploiting, or when they do exploit, you don't recognize it yet. It's like,
if you're saying you didn't make any mistakes that game, one, you're lying to yourself and it's cope. But two, if you want to be a good player, you need to go back and look at your games, because it's kind of like when people spectate fighting games, it's like, oh my God, why didn't he just throw that anti-air out? Because he's actually playing the fucking match. His mind is going everywhere. His mental stack is crazy, but you're on the outside just watching it. Of course you see that jump. You're ready for that jump in. He's not. Watching the air and watching the ground are two different things. It's really hard to do, even though it's all on the same little 24-inch screen.
Problems to make you lose this way. The first thing you can do is every time you get hit, ask yourself, why did I get hit there? That's like a really easy place to start, because identifying grander mistakes like in your strategy, your movement, your decision making, that kind of stuff, that's like more difficult to do. You have to be a better player to and understand the game better to do that. But to just understand, like, why did I get hit? Like, that's like a pretty easy place to start. Well, I misplaced my move and I whiffed and then my opponent hit me, right? It's like, okay, we can start there.
You mashed on wake up for the 5th time and he knew that.
You need to be not swinging that button from that range. You got to hit a different button or something, right? Why did you get hit by a jump in? Well, I threw like a fireball at this range. Okay, so maybe throwing a fireball at that range is like a bad answer, right? You should try something.
One of my biggest mistakes that I make as Guile is I spam his down 4 as a poke because it's one of his best pokes. It goes really far. Only problem is you can punish that really well if you know it's coming with drive impact. And I get fucked up a lot just off of my muscle memory. My muscle memory of doing that poke, that person has seen me do that poke 50 times and he's gonna fuck me up.
Something else. I tried to mash on defense and then I got hit. Okay, why did you get hit here? Well, I tried to mash on defense and then I got hit. Okay, why did you get here? Well, I tried to mash on Stop fucking mashing on defense. Please, for the love of God, just block.
Okay,
and then
yeah,
like,
exactly.
I guess, but like their character's so random and stupid and good, and it's not my fault. Learning how to challenge is very important.
It's always your fault in a fighting game.
This is really common for people who are trying to get good. Your playstyle becomes like, okay, I'm gonna play the game the correct way, and you try to play really solid and good, and then you die to people who play random. The reason this is happening to you is because you're probably doing a lot of nothing. And you're bad at punishing people who take a lot of risks on their all-ins, and you're bad at identifying the types of risks people want to take, right? My advice is you should watch people who play really solid against random players. You should also play risky. You should just play risky for like a day or 2 or 3 or whatever. You should play the play style that you struggle to deal with and then see how that feels and then see how people punish you. Absorb that. You know what I mean? Be like, okay. And I mean, even really good players sometimes lose to players who are like not as good as them maybe, but like just take a lot of risks and surprise them. This happens in a lot of things. Actually quite common. You know, it's a great example. Hunt Showdown, when I play with duos or trios, the MMR I play with is like the highest MMR, right? So we play against 6 stars, which are like the best players. When you play solo, it places your MMR lower. And when you fight these players, the first game or two, I always die because I am like, the way this person has been peeking this angle, like they're probably solo, like nobody's with them. And also they're probably not gonna peek this angle again because like they peeked it earlier. So they're gonna like rotate and probably go to this spot that's common. Things that are sensible for good players to do. So then what happens is they repeat the same angle again and I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm not ready for it. And then it turns out they have 2 teammates and their 2 teammates have been doing nothing for the last 10 minutes. They've just been sitting inside in a corner doing nothing while I fought one person. When you fight good players, if they know you're solo, then they'll just like push you together. When you fight bad players, they just like fight you one at a time over and over. And the other people just hide while this person fights you. You know, it takes a game or two for your brain to be like, I see. And they don't even think to themselves like, wait, if I just peeked from a different place or did this or changed up my strategy this way, the way they think about it is like, oh, if I just hit him, I would have been good. If I just aimed at him and shot him, I would have been fine. Listen. You know, I've been playing a lot of TFT and people who play those,
you really have to always go back and look at your decision making because you always have that aha moment, like on 3rd fight, final round, you're like, oh my God, he's throwing wake up DP every time. All I had to do was block. Why did I keep feeding into it? Have more of those moments and you'll improve as a fighting game player. I'm gonna link Sajam's video in the description if you just want to watch his video. I really enjoy his content and he's very analytical when he's talking about fighting games. And thank you for sticking around. We'll be back. Hopefully the guide on how to be a more risky, goofy player will be out within the next couple days. All right, thanks.
Welcome to the Deli.
Is it all natural?
It's natural tasting.